Thank you, everybody.
Next on the agenda is another friend from the Bay Area. I think this morning it's going to be the Bay Area day, right, for the morning. We're going to have 3 speakers. They're all from the Bay Area. So Vivek Wadhwa was an entrepreneur, started a couple of companies, had a change in his lifestyle because of some reasons, and then decided to go and become an academic. So very few people have done that, I think, gone from entrepreneurship to academia. And he then became associated with many of the leading schools in the Bay Area and other places in the US, and has one of the most prolific bloggers and one of the great opinion leaders in Silicon Valley. So please welcome Vivek Wadhwa.
By challenging Vinod. He said we should be irreverent. I was going to be irreverent to my guru. But first of all, stating that he's completely wrong about the age of successful entrepreneurs.
Mike, hang on. Are you?
Hello? You just have to press it on. Hello?
Yeah.
Hello? No mic? All right, I'll talk from this mic. So what I was going to do basically was be irreverent to Vinod himself by challenging one statement he repeated 2 or 3 times about the age of entrepreneurs. He's dead wrong about the successful entrepreneurs being young. It's true that 65% of the startups might be founded by people under 35, but the most successful startups are founded by people who are an average of 39 years of age. There are twice as many over 60 as there are under 20, twice as many over 50 as there are under 25 who start successful companies. So he's wrong about that. Don't listen to him. So half of you are fine. The other thing he's wrong about is his predictions about 2020. Believe it or not, a lot of the things he talked about will be possible by 2015. What I'm going to do is walk you through 5 major trends in computing, and then tell you why you're better positioned than people in Silicon Valley are to exploit these trends. Not because half of you are old, but because of the knowledge that you have. First of all, let's talk about computing, about hardware. We all know about Moore's law and how processing power has been increasing. But you also now have tablet-like devices which are coming down, crashing in cost. The India tablet, the $35 tablet that Kapil Sibal announced, has received a lot of bad publicity, especially in India. Indians are most skeptical about it. It's for real. I have one. The version 1.0 has all the criticisms that have been leveled at it. They're valid criticisms. But if you go beyond the superficial issues with it, it's a very powerful device. It is about $50 or so. The cost of it is below $30. Version 2.0, which I persuaded Kapil Sibal and I persuaded Suneet Tully, who's the CEO of DataWind, to do, will address all of the deficiencies of it. So within the next 6 months or so, within India, you will be starting a revolution by having the cheapest devices available on this planet, which are now mass-produced, easily available, and supported. I'm not talking about the cheap Chinese clones, which are garbage, which are mostly pirated. I'm talking about legitimate technology which will come with support, with which you can change the world. It's real. Okay. The second thing, cloud computing. All of you know about the advances that are happening in cloud computing, how it costs practically nothing to store massive amounts of data. Right? Now, how many of you know about 3D printing? I bet you hardly any of you do. Now the cost of 3D printers is below $5,000. Within the next 2 or 3 years, it'll be sub $1,000. Within the next 5 years, 3D printers will cost the same as laser printers do. When I talk about 3D printing, I'm talking about printing physical objects, physical hard objects, sophisticated designs using 3D printing. It's all possible right now. And then you have these sensors that we know talked about, such as the Fitbit, and there are a whole bunch of other sensors, but sensor technology has changed dramatically. That's hardware. Let's talk about software. The iPhone 4S, do you know what Steve Jobs' greatest legacy was? That he shifted the entire user interface paradigm once more. People don't realize that the magic of the 4S is not that it's a little bit faster. The magic of the 4S, the iPhone 4S, is Siri, voice recognition. Try talking to it. then people are now getting addicted to it. This is version 1.0 of Siri. Wait until version 2.0, version 3.0. It will change the entire way we do communications with our devices. Just like the mouse, which is also Steve Jobs' innovation, he popularized it. And just like the graphic user interface that came out with the Mac revolutionized computing, so will voice recognition. People don't understand that. Now, because of all these advances in hardware, voice recognition has become possible. Because voice recognition has been evolving for a long time, you needed solid processing power for it. Well, it's possible right now. Another thing we've forgotten is artificial intelligence. AI used to be the stuff of science fiction. AI has now become part of a lot of the technologies we're using. So Siri is using AI. A lot of other products that are coming out there are using AI. AI is now becoming pervasive because of advances in hardware. So over the next 2 or 3 years, you will see AI everywhere. It'll become a key part of all the technologies that you use. Okay? Now let's shift gears and talk about medicine. A decade ago, we sequenced the genome, the human DNA, for the first time. It cost billions of dollars. It took decades to get to that point. Today, you can get full genome sequencing for less than $10,000, complete DNA sequencing for about $10,000. Within 2 years, it'll be about $1,000. Within 5 years, you can get the entire genome sequenced for about $100. So just like in the USA, when you buy an iPhone, you get the phone for free right now. You just have to buy the plan. You'll be able to get your DNA sequence for free. Now imagine the possibilities that happen now. You can now match up a person's DNA with the diseases that they have, with their social media habits, with the friends that they keep. I mean, suddenly you now have all this information about the humans available, like you've had other data available, and you can now come up with revolutionary solutions to the world's problems. You can come up with solutions to disease based on software. Okay. That's medicine. Look at robotics. We've been talking about robots for the longest time. Foxconn is now talking about displacing 1 million Chinese workers and using robotics. Robotics has been around for a long time, but now you also have personal robotics. These robots that you see in science fiction movies, the reason why they weren't practical for the longest time was because they require to do sophisticated recognition, facial recognition, to do voice recognition, to be able to have sophisticated gestures, you need a lot of computing power. A decade ago, the processing power you needed for a robot would be the size of this room. It would be a mainframe computer. A decade ago, 15 or 20 years ago, it would be the size of this room. Today, your iPhone has more processing power than those mainframes used to have from the 60s and 70s. So suddenly, you can have the processor being embedded into these devices, and you can do very sophisticated movements, very sophisticated technology based on robotics. Let's look at data. We talked a little bit about the data that's happening, but we have a massive explosion of data happening. The most ambitious project in the world in big data is happening here in India. Even Vinod didn't understand it. None of his slides, he talked about UID, but he didn't realize the fact that as of today, Sanjay Swami told me last night that 50 million people have already been ID'd and another 50 million in process. He forecasted by March we'll have 200 million people whose retina scans have been done, whose fingerprints have been taken, whose information is now available in a database. The possibilities that it opens up are world-changing. Electronic payments we've talked about, but it also, one of the most successful companies in America that deals with big data is Intellius. Levine Jan is going to be talking tomorrow. But they have figured out how to take data from multiple sources and build very sophisticated applications on top of that. But that pales in comparison to what Aadhaar is going to offer India. Suddenly, you will have all of this information. Before, you couldn't even synchronize addresses. We didn't have any common format for knowing who does what where. You'll be able to change the entire face of society, eliminate corruption when it comes to dealing with government through Aadhaar. Now, there are a lot of risks associated with it, but the fact is that it is world-changing technology. Now, what does this mean for you folks? Now, rather than worrying about stupid social media applications, which is what most venture capitalists in Silicon Valley invest in, you can talk about fixing India's infrastructure. Think about it. Think of all the applications that need to be built right now. It's only now that broadband is becoming pervasive. Using the internet on your cell phones costs practically nothing right now. I bought a SIM card a couple of days ago, 60 rupees, and I got a month of 500 megabyte of free data with it. I tell you, that's mind-blowing to me, the fact that you can get something this cheap. Villages can afford that. Now you take the Akash tablet, version 3.0. I'm not talking about version 1.0. Let's talk about Akash version 3.0 1 year from now. You add in it the 2G or 3G access. You make it available to the villagers for practically nothing. You have world-changing applications. Not only can you educate them, think about it. Education, we don't have teachers in India. We have all these social problems, but we can change the entire face of education. Naveen Jain is going to talk more about this tomorrow. This is something I've learned a lot from him about how you can use these technologies to re-educate people. But the way we've been teaching is the same way we taught with slate and chalk, these old slate boards a century ago. It's the same mode of teaching. Whereas now you can teach people by taking them into virtual worlds. You want to teach geography, you want to teach history, you can take them into virtual worlds and teach them all of these new ways of thinking and learning. You can teach them mathematics by having them play games. There are a lot of advances possible in learning which are now available to India's masses. So you have a chance right now to leapfrog the rest of the world and build amazing new education technologies which impact the lives of hundreds of millions of Indian children and then billions of people all over the world. It'll all happen from India. So you can now exceed in innovation. Education, you can now get a jump start on big data. You can also get a jump start on infrastructure. You go to Silicon Valley and they're obsessed with building yet another stupid Twitter-like application. You folks don't need to build those applications. You folks, the entire India right now needs to be automated. For the first time, you have broadband and tablets available. You can now think of solutions to solve the problems of villagers. You can now solve the problems of city people, all using these technologies. You can weed out corruption by having people log it more aggressively and come up with new types of applications which you report and you analyze and you predict where the next corrupt politician is, what the next scam is going to be, and call these politicians out for what they are, scumbags. But the point is that you can build all these technologies and it can be pioneered from India. Now, why is it that I'm more optimistic about the people in this room than I am about Silicon Valley leading the charge? Because of the education. India's engineering education is very weak, but the level of mathematics you learn here is amongst the best in the world. It's rote and memorization, but I tell you, the rigor that you learn in your schools over here is very high. Even the worst schools impart a lot of knowledge that you don't gain in Silicon Valley anymore. The battles I'm fighting in Silicon Valley are with people like Peter Thiel, who's offering kids $100,000 to drop out of college. And now the other debates I'm having in America, I had a debate at Chicago, which is being broadcast all over America. It was myself and the president of Northwestern University debating Peter Thiel and Charles Murray, who basically argues that you have to judge people by IQ and stop educating people who are low IQ. We debated the value of education, and guess what? We lost it. I'm an awesome debater. I lost that debate. That's the mindset of America. Not only aren't they focusing on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics anymore, they're not focusing on education. The debates are about education being too expensive. Here, all of you would take your life savings. You would work 2 or 3 jobs to educate your children. You teach your children that education is everything, that you have to work hard. The way to rise above it all is through education. And guess what? For all of the technologies I talked about, all of the advances in computing, you need education. You need that foundation. You need to have the understanding of science. When I'm talking about DNA processing, you need to have the understanding of mathematics. When I'm talking about now taking these advances and coming up with new ways of doing computation, and you have to have a social purpose in life. So rather than trying to just build technology for the sake of building technology and make it big and flipping your company to the Silicon Valley mindset is, most of you, and I know many of you in the room, most of you are more concerned about fixing society, about doing good, about fixing the problems. All of you have this passion. It's because of the upbringing that you've had here, because of the difficulties you faced. I haven't met anyone in Bangalore or Delhi or any of the other places I visited who told me that they're becoming an entrepreneur to get rich quick. But that's what the kids in Silicon Valley tell me. My students at Stanford, my students at Berkeley, my students at Duke, they all talk about building a quick company to flip it. Their obsession is about putting together a business plan which will appeal to a venture capitalist, not about fixing the problems of society. The people in this room that I talk to are largely focused on fixing problems of society. Now you put the advantages you have together with the opportunities that happen over here, and there's no reason why all of you can't lead the world. I've written extensively about the change I've seen happening in India, that it's the same dynamic that's at play over here as is at play in the West, that the typical entrepreneur is not what Vinod Khosla said. I'm going to take him to task in the Washington Post over there. Just watch. He's now going to be the poster child for my attacks on Silicon Valley's bizarro mindset. The average age of an entrepreneur is 39. The reason why they start companies is because they've been working for other people for too long. They have an idea. They've learned by working in a specific industry about the needs of the industry, about the needs of their customers. They have ideas about problems that can be solved. They come to the point that their children are a little bit grown up. They now don't have to worry about social pressure for being a startup. And they're about to turn 40. I went through this myself. When you turn 40, suddenly you wake up and realize that, look, I'm 40, I'm working for this stupid company, working for a jerk boss, is what I like calling them, and I haven't accomplished anything. What's going to happen? You have a midlife crisis, and you wake up and say, okay, I'm going to take a risk now and start a company. That's why Americans start companies. Same dynamic at play in India. Now you have an entire generation of people who've been part of the IT revolution over here, who have been working for American companies, Western companies, who understand the Western ways, Western markets, who are now grown up, whose children are grown up, who don't have to, they don't have to worry about not being able to get a bride if they join a startup. They don't have to now have IBM or Infosys on their resume. They can have a rinky-dink company and their parents won't bother with them anymore. They can now take the risk. So the dynamic that happens is that people now have role models. They get excited about trying to change the world. And they have this fire in their belly and they take the risk and start a company. That's what I'm seeing happening over here in India. This is like putting microwave popcorn in a microwave. I don't know if you folks do that here in India or not, but we do a lot of that in the West. After a while, the kernels start popping. What I'm seeing in India right now is that the first kernels are beginning to pop, and that's the people in this room. That you are the early wave of these kernels popping. The IT revolution, the children of the IT revolution who are sick and tired of working for the Microsofts and the Infosys and all these crappy outsourcing companies and sick of cleaning up the mess from the West. You want to take your knowledge and fix this country's problems rather than being the West's janitors. Right? So this is the dynamic in play in this room. So harness this energy, harness your education, harness the advantages you have. You are as smart as are the people in Silicon Valley. I'll give you, I don't know how much time I have left. No one has a clock, but I'm going to go 2 minutes over time. Right? 15.5% of the startups in Silicon Valley are founded by us, by Indians. 15.5%. Consider that 6% of the working population in Silicon Valley is Indian. So you have 6% of the population in Silicon Valley starting 15.5% of its companies. They built billions. I mean, take MR. We should go to his penthouse in San Francisco. I mean, I've heard stories about it. But he's not alone. He feels small when he goes and hangs out with people like Vinod Khosla. There are literally hundreds, maybe thousands of people like MR who have built magnificent wealth over there by becoming part of Silicon Valley and succeeding. So if our people can make it so big in Silicon Valley, why can't we do it in Bangalore? Why can't we do it in Hyderabad, in Delhi, in Jaipur, in Trivandrum? What's missing is the mentor networks. The secret of Silicon Valley is that it's one giant network and people help each other. They embrace failure and they take risks. The same dynamic can be applied to Silicon Valley. This is why I've told Rajendra that the key thing over here is to fix the mentorship problem. Mentorship problem means you helping each other. It means getting people like MR to come here from Silicon Valley and to spend time mentoring them. I tell you, they'll do it. I do it all the time. Naveen is doing it. I mean, he was delighted to meet some entrepreneurs locally and tell them he saw the impact that he made on them. You'll find that there are thousands of people in Silicon Valley who are happy to come over here and mentor you. So I challenge NASSCOM to do something about it. Rather than focusing on government policy, focusing on silly things, focus on getting these people the support that they need. Sorry for the overtime. Right.
Vivek will be also running a session a little later as well, right? So you can kind of rabble-rouse some more.
Absolutely.
But what we do, we still love you and we have a gift for you. So there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vivek.